And yeah, we're looking at a couple disappointing teams, especially Clemson, of course, and the expectations that follow them yearly in the ACC and on the national landscape. And for NC State, typically a better football team as well. And this typically a key matchup in the Atlantic Division, which is no more, but a couple also ran to a certain extent, just looking for survival to get to bowl play. And for Clemson, they have to win out to continue that double-digit winning streak that goes all the way back to 2011. So your thoughts on this one?
It's not what we thought it would be when the season began, but this is why we love sports and in specific college football, because a lot of times the roadmap changes. A lot of times, we were expecting Clemson to maybe roll in this game with only the one loss to Florida State, if not be undefeated, yet they've now lost 3 times, including the double overtime loss to Miami that I'm sure we'll get a little more into if you want here in a couple of minutes. So I thought it was fascinating that Dabo Swinney, who's been feeling the heat the last couple of years, has basically chastised the fans and has said on the record on his radio show, maybe the bandwagon does need to be emptied out some and be a little lighter and have a little more room, with people getting off the bandwagon after they had lost a couple of times. Now they go and lose the game to Miami. So you got a 3-loss ACC season in progress. That is a bit surprising. They have been the standard. They have replaced Florida State the last decade. Mark, you know this, as the standard. Then everybody would shoot for being Clemson and trying to beat Clemson. And so now they are still trying to find themselves this year and still trying to stay relevant, which is a bit surprising in late October.
And Dabo has been one to be resistant to change. That's his reputation. And when you're winning, that's not an issue. But when it starts to turn south, then that becomes an issue, where he has not made changes on the staff previously, unless there's been natural attrition to other jobs. And then he makes the bold move in the offseason to hire Garrett Riley, who, of course, helped lead TCU to a national championship game. And so that was supposed to fix the offense, but the offense is still severely flawed.
Yeah, to say the least. And right now, Cade Klubnik looks like he has, in some ways, begun to regress a little bit, not playing as well as he did earlier in the year while under pressure, especially in their last couple of games. So you wonder. And again, they have lost Tony Elliott, who's now the Virginia coach. They lost Brent Venables, who's now the Oklahoma coach, off that staff. And another thing that he's been criticized for, Dabo, and I know you've been over it, is not embracing the transfer portal as much as he probably should have, if at all. And so there is a lot of the fan base going, why are we not keeping up with the times? Why are we not going and getting players when they're available to come help immediately, as opposed to we're just going to recruit and continue to do what we've done, which is grow from within, build from within with the recruiting base. And the one thing I think of when we're saying that is crossover, because Dabo's an Alabama guy, played at Alabama, coached at Alabama before he got to Clemson, is Nick Saban was so resistant, Mark, as you know, to the modern 2010s college football of play up tempo, have 4 or 5 wide receivers. He was one of the last holdouts on I formation. I know you're smiling. Multiple tight ends.
Love it.
Don't run the spread. Don't try to run a play every 10 seconds. And yet now look at Alabama and what they've become the last few years. They've become just like almost everybody else, with 4 and 5 wide, run the tempo. My point is, Saban has adjusted to the times and to recruiting those types of players and having those types of schemes and coaches. And so you wonder if Dabo's not going to be forced to embrace the transfer portal a little more and go against what he's been so staunchly against.
And I think that was most noticeable in their loss to Florida State, a game that, to their defense, they actually outplayed Florida State, but they made blunders down the stretch to give it away. But Florida State was playing 17 transfer players in that game, and Clemson was playing none. And most of Florida State's best, most impact players were through the transfer portal. Now, Saban's actually gone back to playing a rock fight style of offense, but he's
right.
Kind of been pushed into that corner by his lack of quarterback development. But you're right. Tua, Mac Jones, Bryce Young, let's throw it all over the lot, even though I personally, meaning Nick Saban, do not like to play that style of football. Hey, that we'd rather win than not compete. And so, yeah, he changed. We'll see if Dabo is that flexible.
Yeah, no doubt. And the killer for Clemson, as you look at this game with NC State, the same theme from the Duke opener, the Florida State game, and last week against Miami is turnovers. And killer, Mark, bold, underline, killer turnovers while in the red zone. I mean, they've got a golden opportunity to go up 2 scores on Miami in the second half, and they once again fumble going in at like the half-yard line. And Miami, a play or two later, gets like an 80-yard plus touchdown run, 14-point swing. And it's not just the turnovers. You mentioned the Florida State game. They're tied in the game after they've been winning, and they have a sack fumble. Or actually, they're up 7, and the sack fumble happens for like a 55-yard return the other way that ties the game, gets the game into overtime, and that's where FSU wins it on the long touchdown by Jordan Travis in the overtime. So their turnovers going all the way back to the Duke game in the red zone, where they cost themselves like 3 different times, at least twice in goal to go with turnovers in the red zone. That is critical for them to knock that off. If they do that again on Saturday, NC State's got a great chance to beat them.
NC State, having its own issues on the offensive side of the ball, put up a big field goal. That's it, with MJ Morris at quarterback. Brennan Armstrong, I cannot think of a quarterback on the college football landscape that has had the free fall that Brennan Armstrong has. 2 years ago, he led the nation in passing yards per game, about 450 per game, 31 touchdowns, 10 picks. The TD to pick ratio the next season was 7-12, and all the numbers just plummeted. Now he transitions to NC State, where there was thought that, hey, new setting, new life, rebirth, and also back in a relationship with his former offensive coordinator there at NC State that he worked with at Virginia. But it's been more of the same for Brennan Armstrong, and now he's been benched.
Yes, and so now they're going to go with the quarterback that they're utilizing in MJ Morris, who played as a true freshman and played well. You love the nostalgia, you love the stats. So I'm doing my research for this game coming up on Saturday on national radio. MJ Morris became the first NC State true freshman quarterback to win a game since the Phillip Rivers in 2000 was a true freshman at NC State and won a game. So he comes in heralded out of Georgia as a high school star, but the offense was not very good against Duke. You got to credit Elko and Duke for some of that, playing at home, but they were not able. They got an early field goal, and they did nothing else the rest of that game. Now they've had the bye week. Will they be better against Clemson? Clemson has still played pretty good defense, pretty physical defense so far this season, and you wonder, will NC State be better with Morris with the dual threat? We're about to find out.